by music. Stand by now.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
It's the Bellagio, the Mirage, and the MGM Grand.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Mike Wazowski.
Open your eyes.
Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me!
King Kong ain't got on me!
What about second breakfast?
Why not? Why can't I?
How can we be expected to teach children to learn how to read if they can't even fit inside the building?
Works for me.
Yeah, we're fine. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of 20 Years 4 Beers Happy Hour. 20 Years 4 Beers is a podcast dedicated to rewatching popular movies from 20 years ago while simultaneously enjoying 4 beers. The Happy Hour episodes we actually watch separate, so we enjoy 2 beers on our own while watching the film, and usually a 5th while we record.
Yep.
Hence the Happy Hour.
Hey, you guys. Happy Hour is from 4 to 6.
And we do record after recording our other episodes, which we have 4. So we have a good time on this one. So it's a little more free form.
Yep.
So welcome to 20/4. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
And thanks for listening. On this week's, in this episode of Happy Hour,
That's right,
we are covering 2001's comedy Zoolander.
Would you guys stop it already? Did you ever think that maybe there's more to life than being really, really, really ridiculously good looking?
Zoolander, if you're not familiar, it follows a male model named Derek Zoolander as his career begins to fade as he ages. He is a clueless fashion model who struggles with an up-and-coming superstar named Hansel, who's really hot right now.
That Hansel's so hot right now. Hansel, so hot right now.
It's that damn Hansel. He's so hot right now.
And finds himself brainwashed in a plot to kill the Prime Minister of Malaysia, or Micronesia, or any number of other ways that they find to call it Malaysia. So, as you can tell by my description, as Almost Famous would call it, it's a think piece.
Yeah, totally.
It's a think piece, really. So the film is directed by Ben Stiller, written by Stiller, as well as Drake Sather and John Hamburg. Starring Ben Stiller as Zoolander, Owen Wilson as Hansel.
That Hansel's so hot right now.
Christine Taylor, Will Ferrell, a host of other cameos, including Vince Vaughn, John Voight, David Duchovny, and Tim's absolute man crush in James Marsden.
I squealed when I saw him.
Absolutely. You would die on that hill.
I was like, oh my God.
You would absolutely die on that hill. So, yes, we are going to discuss Zoolander. Thanks for listening. We're going to hop right into our first sort of segment. We do this a little bit differently. It's a little more freeform with some shorter segments that we normally cover a little bit along the way. And we're going to actually do our drinking buddies, I think, first this time around.
Yep.
Come on, not my fucking beer.
Where we discuss our beers. Tim's not going to cover all of them, but he'll start with his 2 that he had while watching, and then I'll go next.
I am sorry to disappoint that I had no theme.
You couldn't even find a theme?
I could not.
I know there's no Blue Steel beer.
It was tough, but it largely was what's in my fridge that I haven't covered in the pod before.
Sure.
And I'll drink that. And so I had what has become, honestly, a bit of a staple, and will continue to be, from Stacked Deck Brewing out of St. Paul.
Outstanding.
Their Weekend at Larry's Hazy IPA. That and the Verbal Tip from Falling Knife are kind of like the 2 hazies I have all the time now. It's 4.25 for me. Absolutely loved it. And I will say then I finished that. This is a rarity for me with this happy hour. I watched this movie in one sitting. It's a newbie.
Whoa, was you watching it with your wife too?
I did, and I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I will
too.
It
was an experience. I gave up halfway through caring about what I drank. So then I had the Modern Times Fruited Sour.
Oh, okay.
Fruitland Sour, I should say.
Have we had that?
Not in this one. We've
Okay,
had other
all right,
modern times,
yeah.
but they're Fruitland Sour, and it's good. It's a 4.25.
I was going to have it, but I thought we had it. I
No,
literally was going to pop it open, and I was like, I think we've had it.
We've had other,
All
like
right.
we've cleaned out the modern
fine.
times
That's
like
fine.
other ones we have, but not the Fruitland Sour. So yeah, 4.25 for both, and it was just a nice, enjoyable time drinking beer.
Sure. I watched it alone crying into my sleeve, and so, no, the last part was not true. I did watch it alone. I had Fair State's Roselle Hibiscus Sour. Again, I don't have a theme either. I just didn't even want to think about it.
Yes.
So they're sort of, I guess it's kind of their standard sour. I mean, I know the raspberry sour of the Roselle.
Yeah, Roselle's...
But their regular Roselle is one that's out all the time, and that's
So
sort
good.
of on. It is good. I have a 3.75 out of 5, and that's largely because I think the raspberry Roselle is better.
That's true.
And so I just think that's different.
And the industry's kind of caught up to it.
Yeah,
When we had it like
started,
years ago, we're like,
Yep.
what is this? And now it's like,
That's been the standard of Fair State, although we'll talk about Fair State a little bit in a second.
yes.
And the second beer I had was Badger Hill out of Shakopee, Minnesota's their Trader IPA. Just their standard IPA. Always a good example of a good, solid, straight up, traditional, not as piney IPA. So I have a 4 out of 5 on that. It's not the one that we probably would ever have on our regular episodes. So I was like, I'm going to have the Badger Hill.
But it's good.
It is very good. It's always something I have no problem having a drink on. So, yeah. So we then are also enjoying another beer, which from Fair State, Tim will discuss.
Tonight we're having the Fair State with collaboration of Modern Times. Their double Spirit Foul. And for those beer fans in the cities area, Spirit Foul hit the scene like a pandemic of sorts.
On the beer scene for sure. A few
Years ago,
yeah.
where it was like, holy cow. But this is their double dry hopped, double IPA version of that with Strata and Mosaic Cryo hops. This came out yesterday, and I went to 3 different liquor stores today to find it because I was on a mission. And
really?
It's really damn good. It's really, really...
Yeah.
So, speaking of industry catching up, Spirit Foul was one that came out years ago. Probably the first hazy I've ever had.
Pretty
in
close
terms
to
of that
it, sure.
style, where it's like, what is this? And the industry's caught up. So I don't necessarily seek it out anymore when it comes
Spirit
out.
Foul, the single, is not something I actually single out.
But I haven't had this before.
Yeah.
And this is really good. This is like a 4.5, 4.5 for me. Wow.
So far, it's
fantastic.
probably at a 4.5. We'll see how it holds up for me, but I agree.
We'll come back to it,
as some beers start great, and then as you go, it just loses something.
This is
really good. I'm at a 4.5 as well. So the way this again works is I think we'll kind of do some social network stuff.
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
I actually do have a review. Ooh, I know. It's like I'm actually taking this seriously now.
Oh my god.
Do you want to go first? I have one, but mine's from New York Daily News. So as long as we don't...
I don't... Rest assured, I don't have that.
Yeah,
one.
I was going to say, you kind of stick with the Rolling Stone.
No, I actually have different... I do have the Raj, but...
I'm saying,
I have a different one.
We usually have a few that you go to, so I avoid them. So I just want to... If I do some actual
New York
research...
Daily News.
If I actually do some research, I'm like...
That's like from
screw it, I'm just
Spider-Man
gonna-
or whatever.
That's fine. It's fine. It's a good review.
Oh, it's Daily Beagle. Anyway.
Yes.
Ultimately, it's a IMDb rating for the movie. Zoolander is 6.5 out of 10. Surprisingly well reviewed at the time. And I say surprisingly, we'll talk about later. Ones that stood out to me were Wally Hammond of Time Out.
Okay. Well,
right?
me and my New York Daily News. Oh, God. Slumming it.
It's a fashion spoof draped over the bones of a puerile conspiracy adventure. This vanity comedy fails at every level. The big man Raj, Ebert, gave it 1 out of 4 stars.
1?
1 out of 4.
Wow.
That's tough for him.
Wow.
He said, while I admire the ruthlessness with which the film points out that the fashion industry indeed depends on child labor,
Jesus.
If the Malaysians made a comedy about the assassination of the U.S. president because of his opposition to slavery, it would seem approximately as funny to us as Zoolander would seem to them. And Academy Awards, not surprisingly, none.
How many MTV Movie Awards was it up for?
More than...
I don't know. Probably more than the Academies. That
your
bothers
review?
me so much on Ebert of just, again, it proves that some movie reviewers cannot separate themselves.
Sure.
They stop taking this seriously. Like, come on. We're going to talk about this movie in a sense of whether we like it or not, but a 1 out of 5, I like it better than a 1 out of 5. 1 out of 4, excuse me.
Yeah.
I like it better than that.
Yeah.
That's just like, it's taking yourself way too seriously for a movie about Ben Stiller being a supermodel and Owen Wilson with his thrice broken nose or whatever he's got is somehow a supermodel. Like, come on. That's just absurd, Roger.
Right, what's your review?
So I had Jamie Bernard from New York Daily News said, the humor is simple but far from dumb. The dueling walk-off between rival male mannequins is inspired, as are the sly juxtapositions of the male model's faux physicality with such real-world demands as coal mining. And I like that. I was like, yep. It was just, it took it enough. I think it was probably like a 2.5 out of 4 kind of a review. Sure. But it took it seriously enough as a movie. Yeah. But not serious, like not Roger trying to think that this is some sort of Best Picture winner. Side note, he also wrote The Return to the Valley of the Dolls. So get over yourself, Roger Ebert, and your stupid sequel to The Valley of the Dolls.
He won a Pulitzer. How dare you?
Yeah, later in life. So stop it with these reviewers. You know what you're getting into when you walk into a Ben Stiller comedy about Zoolander.
I do wish reviewers would kind of like somewhat acknowledge.
Give me a secondary review of saying serious review and sub review.
We've always talked about like how like Transformers is crapped on, but it's like, what do you expect? Like acknowledge what you're getting into.
Absolutely, as a pure popcorn enjoyment.
Yes,
love it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the rare Michael Bay film I like.
Not
so
Pearl Harbor. After
our social network segment,
top 5 side ones, track ones.
We kind of are just gonna. What do you got? Do you have any first thoughts of Zoolander? You watched it with your wife. I watched it solo. I think we'll have different experiences on this.
Well, maybe, in the sense of we started watching together, and I think this movie broke my wife. In the sense that we were both super excited to watch it again because it was not a staple, but a reliable comedy back in college. And she was very excited. She's like, "Oh, you're going to watch that? Cool." So it was a day this week where the puppy went to doggy daycare, came back, was exhausted, didn't deal with him. And it was like, we can watch a movie. Great. Middle of the week, put it on. And I think 40 minutes in, she went to the bathroom. And I paused. She goes, "You can keep it going." And I said, "Really?" She's like, "I'll catch up." And it was this weird feeling of like disappointment. And she came back and she kind of watched the bit. She's like, I think I might go to bed. And I was like, what? But this movie was one we were so excited for. And I was shocked that I did not find it funny as I did 20 years ago.
Right.
Or like 1980. Like, this was a movie that was kind of like a thing we looked like, oh, it's so great. And watching again, I was like, yikes. It's 90 minutes and it is tough to get through. So she left halfway through. So I watched half the movie alone. And I think comedies are better together, but it was definitely one where it got done. I was like,
unsatisfactory climax.
Okay, well, hence why I cared about the beer to start with, and I'm like, whatever, I'll have my modern times.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it did not hold up like I thought it would.
Sure. I think for me, there were definitely times I laughed. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I did not belly laugh as much as I probably did back in the day.
Yes.
And I suppose we'll come back to that a little bit, and I'll play off of yours. My number one takeaway was, I think this is a movie that has to be watched with others.
Yep.
Who are enjoying it as well.
Yep.
Possibly inebriated. And
yeah, maybe have 4 beers.
Right, you can quote it together.
Yes.
I mean, there are movies. Napoleon Dynamite is the number one on that list to me. Yes. Of you cannot watch that movie alone and find it funny.
Yep.
I want to know if anyone watched that movie alone and found it funny. you have to watch it with others. We saw it together with some friends,
Yes.
and it was okay at first, and then we started quoting it afterwards,
Yes.
and it just became funnier and funnier and funnier. You have to quote it. Anchorman, to a certain extent, is that way.
Yep.
There are some others, but I think this movie, for me, I did find myself laughing, but not in like a... I think I found myself laughing more at my second point, which I'll get to, but like, it was more about the performances and not necessarily the movie. Like, the individual performances were still funny, and they were really well. They were clearly interested in what they were doing.
Yeah.
And they didn't mail it in. Nobody is like
True.
trying to just sort of collect a paycheck or anything. This is obviously something they worked on and wrote together and that kind of stuff. It just doesn't hit. And yeah, that was, to me, I was like, you have to watch this with other people to be able to quote it together and laugh together. But on my own, I was like, yikes. I just don't think this is as funny.
I agree.
I don't actually think I actually found that movie that funny the first time around.
Yeah.
But I do think it has to be watched with others in order to enjoy it more.
I might have like a nostalgic lens that I think like, oh yeah, this was one we watched a lot. And it's like, well, no one in my circle of friends owned it. So we probably didn't watch it that much.
You might have quoted it together. There are quotable lines for sure.
Exactly. But think about the fact of like, somewhat timing wise, like a week ago, we were here watching just randomly Tommy Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And that, while we might say, sure, you and me and my wife like were watching it, and like that was laugh out loud.
Oh, I can watch
funny.
Tommy Boy on my own
and
laugh out loud.
Exactly. Like that holds up so well, and it's phenomenal. And it's arguably a movie about a lovable idiot that's put into a scenario that he's out of his depth. And so again, the concept of this is not that unique. I mean, it's somewhat a comedy staple, especially from a white male comedy perspective of
and
like
the 90s,
yes,
especially
like
or 90, this
overblown, lovable idiot, out of his depth, and somehow rallies together.
Billy
like,
Madison, anybody?
Exactly, like every Adam Sandler movie,
ever
MacGruber, like all these things were like, what the hell?
Back to that.
Oh, it's like, so clearly the concept isn't necessarily the problem for me. It was, I truly think like just it felt in many ways like a Ben Stiller show that he had, or like an SNL pitch that would have been great as like a recurring character,
sure,
in small doses. But for 90 minutes, it was really challenging for me to enjoy it. Where I just felt like, again, a week later after watching Tommy Boy, loving it, and then this is like, I probably laughed out loud twice.
I chuckled a lot.
Chuckled. Exactly. It was a chuckle fest.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sorry. I feel like that's some sort of like weird Cajun barbecue in Louisiana.
Oh.
The Chuckle Fest.
Come on down the Chuckle Fest.
Chuckle Fest. So I think though...
Get your fear of the Chuckle
Fest. So I think like, to your point though, before we move on, I think we talked about this with Spirit Fowl, as how the industry caught up.
Yes.
And I do think
I like it.
That's
Go
where
on.
it is just saying, I could name, I mean, Tommy Boy was before this, but for me, Tropic Thunder is a top 5 comedy of all time.
Yes.
That's after this, and that's Ben Stiller as well.
Yes.
The Other Guys is great. We talked about that previously in some episodes. There are Bridesmaids. You have all these other comedies, Super Bad.
Old
School to a certain extent for sure.
Wedding Crashers.
Yeah.
No, but the people involved in this movie,
yeah, I get it. I get
different
what you're saying.
fashions,
right? Yep. But like, but even then, Booksmart more recently, there's so many other comedies that have evolved from what this felt like. This felt like a '90s comedy in a 2000 era that just didn't know where it was. But at the time, it was funny. But now the industry, as I look over the last 20 years, I would pick 15 to 20 other comedies before ever watching this again, and I could watch those on my own and enjoy the entire time, or I could skip over it and go back to Tommy Boy or In and Out
Yes.
or Birdcage or some of these
Yes.
other 90s movies, Billy Madison even, and enjoy those better. So it kind of feels like this weird right in between this era that at the time was great, but like the industry caught up and it's just is so much better.
Yes.
And even Ben Stiller has made better movies since then.
Absolutely.
So it's this weird thing. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it's a weird thing of like...
This might be the first time that 20 years is... X-Men was maybe the first time and that was right away, but we really... 20 years has really affected this movie.
Yes.
None of the other movies were really... Like, X-Men didn't hold up.
No.
But none of the other movies were like, wow, 20 years? The industry has just passed this up. Whereas X-Men was like, I respect this movie because it started a movement.
Foundation.
Right. But this is just like, yeah, it doesn't hold up.
I totally agree. It was painful to get through, like to the point where even the next, like we woke up and like I was talking about stuff and like my wife and like Zoolander wasn't that funny. She's like, right?
Yeah.
And it was like this like kind of catharsis of like, how did we love this movie? Like we would quote it in college or talk about it, and it's like, how does it like? There's things I watch back in the day and think, oh yeah, it just didn't. Maybe it doesn't age well. This was surprising, where I had such a high regard for her, thinking this is funny. Like it's a male model being brainwashed, being it's so stupid, an assassin, and okay, cool. Like there's moments, but yeah, watching it, I truly laughed out loud only twice, and I chuckled. And it's like the only redeeming quality of this movie, though, I will say is. Bless R.I.P. Dear God, Jerry Stiller should be in everything, because every scene he's in as Maury
Ballstein,
genius, is incredible.
Yeah,
to the point where I finished the movie and just went down a YouTube like rabbit hole of Jerry Stiller clips, of Seinfeld outtakes and other stuff, where it's like, "You talking to me?" Like,
you want this? You got it.
Exactly. Like, and at the end of the movie,
what the hell does that mean? Yep.
I still reference that. It's so good. But at the end of the movie of this, where he's talking to his apparent wife or whatever about bringing the backup hard drive, and yet gets into a conversation about how to properly reheat something in a Tupperware.
Sheila, honey, it's me. Listen, I need you to bring that zip disk in the den down to the fashion show. I don't care what the traffic is like. Take the goddamn service road and get off before the bridge. So put it in one of those Tupperware containers, and I'll heat it up in the microwave when I get home. For Christ's sake, it's a casserole, Sheila! It'll stay!
It's a casserole, like, genius.
Yes.
Absolutely. Like, I was laughing, like, crying in a 5-second window because of how great he is.
Yeah.
And that, to me, was a standout of, I had to wait an hour and 10 minutes to get to that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these funny moments, but
I
was shocked. But yeah, God bless Jerry Stiller. So incredible.
Jerry, to me, the other thing that stood out to me the most was that Jerry Stiller is a comedic treasure.
Oh,
that should be absolutely just worshipped at. It's just his embrace. And again, we talk about like what stands up or doesn't. And one of the things about Me Too movement and things like that is when it takes it seriously or when it's over the top, right?
Sure.
And when Jerry Stiller is just, and Maury Ballstein is just there, and he just walks around and he just grabs her ass.
Here comes us!
Right, exactly.
Yes.
It is so over the top, and it's meant to be over the top.
Yes.
It's literally at the time meant to be over the top, and it's perfect.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh, Maury. And it's so great. Everything Jerry Stiller does is perfection. And that's one of those things where you're just like, as he got older, he almost like felt like, F it. I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to do it with 100% gusto.
Yes.
Yeah, the moment he's on there, I was like, okay, this is at least going to be enjoyable, because Jerry Stiller's in it, for sure.
He's incredible.
Yep.
Absolutely incredible.
One of the other things was, actually quite a few things. I have some notes here, obviously, but I think, do you have another point in all you wanted to cover, or what?
I'm waiting on you with your notes.
Well, I think it's the second best death scene ever of Friends. Like when it's the randommost thing. It's just like when his model friends.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
When they're just having the gas fight, and then they die, and you're like, which side?
Orange mocha frappuccino.
That's right. Which are apparently
male models would not drink that.
And apparently they're just orange slushies.
Yes.
But yeah, which again, side note, how expensive is New York City rent if an apparent all-time supermodel can't afford to live on his own? He's got to live with 3 other
bunk beds.
models. Yeah, exactly. Like, how bad is New York City rent? My God, and this is 20 years ago.
Yes.
But no, it's the second best death scene ever of Random Friends. And what's number 1? You already mentioned the movie. It's MacGruber.
Oh yeah, MacGruber. Yeah,
it's absolutely
convening.
Absolutely. Oh God, guys, are you okay? The MacGruber death scene of Friends is absolutely better.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yes,
the whole super squad.
Plus, then what? Like Skarsgård is in this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, freaking Alexander Skarsgård. So I agree. Like I've loved watching that. Like in throwing George Michael. And
absolutely,
it goes off the rails, and then springs the dirty water
that is not laugh out loud funny.
Yes,
but again, we're talking about it now, and it is funny.
Yes,
and all the more reason why you have to watch this with other people and
beer
spraying
gasoline.
Absolutely, there's
what the hell is happening?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep. So I love that scene.
No. And it comes in as the center for reading for kids that can't read good.
Can't read too good.
Yeah, and that's the statue of them, with the gasoline. Yeah. So again, the concept never was necessarily an issue for me. And there's moments that make it work. It's just the execution. I felt it's tough. The dance or the runway,
the walk-off scene. Absolutely.
It's
inspired, man.
Inspired. And then it's just okay, moving on. I can't. But
it felt almost like, did they come up with that idea and then come around a story with that?
Yeah.
Because that walk-off scene is outstanding.
Yes.
Everything about it is right. Not only the modeling part of it is great, but just the idea of 2 male models fighting it out, but they don't fight it out with their fists. They fight it out on the runway, and everyone does it. And then David Bowie is somehow the judge.
Right?
That is such an inspired scene that it almost feels lost in it's a high point of the film.
Yes,
for me, for sure. I love that walk-off scene.
Yes,
it's not laugh out loud funny, but it's totally enjoyable. I enjoy that entire scene.
But it's a funny thing of the movie. It's I enjoy now talking about it more than watching it.
Right.
And that's, to me, is somewhat a problem with the movie, where it's these things you think about after the fact. Again, not to go back to Time Away,
whatever.
You reference it and you watch it, and it's just as enjoyable. Whereas we talk about it, but if we were to watch Zoolander now, it'd be meh. But again, it's the talking about it that it's oh yes, and that. But then you watch it meh.
Right.
And the execution doesn't quite hold up.
Sure.
These weird things of these references to all these 90s stars, Billy Zane. If you didn't know who the hell Billy Zane was, you'd be who the hell is this random bald dude of 2001?
I know.
You watch
at the time, it was pretty funny.
It was, and Winona Ryder and all these things.
Absolutely.
What's a Stranger Things person doing here?
Exactly.
What? Yes. So it's definitely a time capsule type of film, David Duchovny, the conspiracist.
It is funny
X-Files,
though.
wink, wink.
Right. We just watched Training Day, which had Macy Gray hasn't done anything since then.
She was in Full House.
Good for
on
you.
Netflix.
And so, but Snoop Dogg's obviously relevant, but Dr. Dre.
Yes.
And so, it times you to that era, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff. But that doesn't feel like it pigeonholed you in there. Whereas when you do what they did, not to mention the person we haven't talked about yet, which is Donald Trump is also in it. And you do sort of say, like, again,
it was like,
yikes, this does not hold up. And it's right away at the beginning, and it almost feels like if you just removed him from it, maybe we'd feel a little bit better, because you just sort of start out by, I mean, it's like running a marathon and tripping 5 feet in. You got, it's a struggle, man. I mean, oh God, I just tripped and sprained my ankle, and so now I got 26 miles to go.
They have Vince Vaughn in this movie.
Who doesn't speak?
He doesn't speak! He's clearly known before this.
Again, how much did that MFer get paid just to not speak?
To sit in a coal mine town in southern New Jersey, whatever that is, and
like coal mining area.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he and Judah Friedlander are like not hanging out like with John Voight, and like that whole sequence was fine, I guess, but it was like, because again, all these people together in like a 2 or 3 person time to come are great, and they have different, like, I mean, all the movies we talked about, like, they have great, like, a legacy of movies, and this is weird to see them all in these and be like Will Ferrell was freaking annoying as Mugatu. Like, it was early SNL days where it's
outside
like,
of
sure,
his consistent joke of he's so hot right now.
He's so hot right now.
Other than that, I agree. There was nothing to him. That we're like, yeah,
you're just.
And that, can you come up with an annoying voice and just go?
Yes.
Yep.
And like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, this is weird. It just, I was surprised at how I was not laughing at all. Chuckling. A chuckle fest.
The chuckle fest. I will say, one of the things I always remember is when Owen Wilson throws the iMac out there because the files are in it, is still just objectively stupidly funny.
Yes.
Like, it's just great. Like, where are the files?
Inside.
Like, inside the computer.
Yes.
Any other thoughts you have on this at the moment before we move on? Because I've been told that if we just get drunk and talk crap about movies, this is exactly what we need to do.
This is going to be maybe weirdly incendiary.
Whoa!
But
incendiary. Again, an almost famous quote.
I like to
Hey man, I'm incendiary too.
I'm in there too, man. I didn't realize this movie was released roughly 3 weeks after 9/11.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if I know they made like edits to it, like where they removed the towers.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if some of a bit of courtesy was given to this movie so soon after, of like, from reviews.
Sure.
Of like, I need a good laugh. And this is like a mindless, fun thing that doesn't hold up 20 years later.
Sure. The Giuliani effect.
Exactly. God. Well, it's like, yeah, that's a crazy other story. But like, but the weird thing is like, maybe they changed it in Tropic Thunder where they realized like, maybe you don't have a real country.
Yeah.
As like, why would you have Malaysia? Like it was a weird thing. Like watching it being like,
I will say,
really?
Like, the number of times that they mispronounce, or like the Micronesia, or whatever, like they keep going down.
I get it.
Is kind of the point, and maybe that's why.
Sure.
Yeah.
The critique of these,
you could have just made up
idiots.
some other company, other country. Excuse me.
It just felt weird, like watching it now, be like, this seems odd with Malaysia. But I again, the timing standpoint, they probably were like, oh shit, we got to like change this kind of like last minute. But it, I do wonder if some of that like generosity was more so.
Sure, like it came out, and maybe maybe you're like, this is a nice. Reprieve.
Check your brain at the door, like have a good time,
sure.
Whatever. Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, there is real arguments to that. There's been a host of things, whether it be after the 2008 financial crisis or after the pandemic now.
Yeah.
I mean, we loved A Quiet Place Part 2. It's not a comedy, but there is sort of this understanding of the timing matters of when you watch a movie.
Yes, it's
so
different.
I get that.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I'm not surprised I didn't like it the second time or this time around, because I was not expecting to.
Yeah.
I will say I really enjoyed, obviously, Jerry Stiller. Christine Taylor is,
dude.
One, I mean, she's such a great. And I looked back too, because before this, there really wasn't. It was the Brady Bunch movies, and that was about it for her.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was really like
Marsha.
Right. So it was surprising to me, and obviously she was with Stiller at the time. I don't know if they were married at that time, but they were close to it. It was, if not, because they had met a few years prior. She's awesome, and I mean, like, again, another movie that aged better is Dodgeball.
Yes.
Again, with, you know, he wasn't directed by Stiller, but with Stiller and Taylor,
yes,
and that kind of stuff. Of just saying, she does such a good job of being the straight man.
Yes.
Just being put in this ridiculous situation, and her facial expressions are perfect. Like, she's so good in this. So I liked her a lot. But no, the movie itself, I'm not shocked that I didn't like it the next time around, but I also kind of hoped that I would be able to, like, laugh a little bit more.
Yes.
Do you have any trivia or anything, or
not really? I mean, we talked about, like, it was the first American film in which Alexander Skarsgård appeared.
Skarsgård
of True Blood, Big Little Lies, like big guy.
Tarzan.
Yeah, that's right, Legend of Tarzan. But no, I didn't really seek that much out because
I have one.
I'm stoked because I'm like, whatever.
So in the movie, Ben Stiller goes to this day spa and has a sort of masseuse with the fake.
Yeah, this weird like prosthetic stuff,
weird
whatever.
Prosthetic stuff, whatever. Yeah. You want to take a guess who played the masseuse in that?
This is someone like I would know.
Yeah.
A
very, I suppose, it's a popular comedian. Very, somewhat polarizing.
I have no idea.
Andy Dick
played
the masseuse.
Yeah, okay, I could see him playing that because, like, it felt so weird. Like this character is so odd.
Sure.
Doesn't speak.
How about the evil DJ?
Oh, Justin Theroux.
Yeah,
I do recognize
you really
him.
Can't. Yeah, you're like, that's impressive actually. But Justin Theroux was
because of the Tropic Thunder connection. Like I know, like he's in the circle of it. So like, yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, like I could see you because
But Andy Dick
I
was
had
the
no
masseuse,
idea.
That weird, awkward prosthetic masseuse,
and the whole weird erect penis thing. Like that was just.
It was forced. It was funny but forced. But there's all that. It was such an early 2000 thing of just like having. There had to be a scene with a penis. Like, it just had to be. I mean, even Wedding Crashers had the thing where it's just like...
Yes.
I mean, everything had to have it almost. It was just...
A misplaced erect penis is somewhat funny. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So those are my trivia, I guess, as it were.
Yeah, I had no idea, actually.
Yeah, I randomly was like, I wonder who played the masseuse. And I looked up on IMDb, because who gets that credit, right? And it just so happened to be Andy Dick of all people.
I had no idea.
Yeah, side note, watch News Radio if you've ever... I mean, I don't like Andy Dick necessarily as a comedian, but he's very good.
It works.
Any other final thoughts on Zoolander?
No, I was unpleasantly disappointed by this. Like, it's a weird thing, like, having this recorded just after Training Day, which was so surprisingly good. And having watched Zoolander this week, I haven't seen the sequel, and I have no interest.
I haven't either, actually.
Right?
No, yeah.
It came out, I'm like, okay. It's one of those, like, where they kind of, like, try to go back to the well to capture it, and I have no interest in going back now after seeing this. Yeah.
No, I don't necessarily think... I'm kind of the same way. I wouldn't necessarily even recommend this to people.
No.
Of just saying... Okay.
If you haven't seen it, you can skip it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you want to look back on it and see at the time what it was. But yeah, you're just kind of like, meh, that's fine.
But what did hold up
is
the double Spirit Foul. The beer we had tonight with this. You got to admit.
It is really good. No, it stays at a 4.5.
This is really good.
Yep, if you can get it, apparently it's being sold out.
Yeah, the weird thing was, though, the notes they say on this is pineapple, orange juice, and overripe tropical fruit. What? Come on.
I know.
Breweries.
It makes you not want to...
Don't do that.
It makes you not want to...
Overripe? Oh, spoiled fruit. Sign me up.
Yeah. Thanks for taking some time to listen to us.
What's our next happy hour?
I guess, man, we're crapping on yet another movie. I don't think we're going to crap on the next one, though. Because our next happy hour is A Knight's Tale, starring Heath Ledger.
All right. I'm excited.
And other people.
Yes. Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk, yes, absolutely.
Paul Bettany.
And then, so we have...
Rufus Sewell.
Oh, my God. I like how Rufus Sewell, of all people we can come up with, but not
I can't remember
Frost.
coworkers' names, but I can pull out Rufus Sewell from 20 years ago.
Absolutely. So, yes, A Knight's Tale is going to be our next happy hour that we will be recording. So, on that note, we want to say thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Find us on Twitter at years_beers or on Facebook, or head to 20years4beers.com. This has been a 20 Years 4 Beers happy hour. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
And
Peace
thanks
out.
for listening.
Thank you.
I got a prostate the size of a honeydew and a head full of bad memories.
Get your fear in the Chuckle Fest.